There is There's a lot that I want to get to today, a lot, but we're going to really just talk about one thing. Typically, on my podcast, Spazzing Out America's podcast, I typically talk about politics. That's about it. I should be talking about what's going on at the House of Representatives right now. The BS. I'll do a whole nother stream on this, a whole nother podcast on it. The BS that's happening inside the Republican Party, the fucking infighting that's driving me nuts. It's ridiculous. It's shameful. These guys can't come together for anything, which is why we keep getting our ass kicked by the Democrats. We save that for another day. Old people getting on my nerves. I got harassed. Well, they didn't harass me, but they time sucked me. Old people should not be allowed to leave the house. If you're old and you're decrepit and you're Joe Biden-like and you don't understand technology, stay the fuck home. But we'll talk about that another day. I'll do a whole nother show on that. But we probably should talk about Damar and what happened at the Bills game and the Bengals game last night, in the craziness surrounding it, the stuff that's like poor Skip Bayless, the guy's getting run out of the country, and I'd kind of like to defend him and try to get you guys to understand where he was coming from, but then he doubled down and he made a stupid apology. His apology was worse than his original comment. I want to talk about that, but first things first, right? Damar Hamlin and his family, obviously thoughts and prayers go out to them. I can't even imagine what it must be like to be his mom, to be his teammates. I can't. All I can tell you is this. Up until the time my father died, death never really bothered me because it never really hit me. It never really affected me. I never looked at, as a matter of fact, a friend of mine, John Simpson, his brother had died during football season. And then like a day or two later, John played the game. And his brother was, I was thinking about it, I might get teary-eyed, right? And at the time, I didn't really I felt bad for John, right? Obviously. It was fucking terrible. I still feel bad for him to this day. But I didn't feel the significance of it because I had never lost anybody close to me. I never, a grandparent had died, but you're not really that tight, or I'm not anyways. I wasn't that tight with my dad's father or my mom's mother or my mother's father, or I never met my dad's mom or my mother's dad. So never really tight, never really affected me. And then when my father had died, at this point, I never did. I never took a sick day in 15 years working at WAF. I never took time off. I just don't. There's nothing that could keep me from going to work. And then when my father died, I took the whole week off. I was fucking shook. My whole world, I just got to think about it. I'm going to start crying. My whole world came to an end. This guy was my everything. He was my everything. 10 years later, I'm still affected by it. I still think about it. I think about the guy every day. It just doesn't go away. It doesn't. You try to move on, but it doesn't go away because he lives with me in everything that I do. My work ethic is because of my father. The way I raise my kids is because of my dad. The way I talk is because I'm like my dad. I'm 100% my father. So it never hit me until my father passed away. How painful it is to lose a loved one. It absolutely crushed me, and it still hurts. So when I was watching, I didn't see. Well, listen, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't watching the game. A buddy of mine texted me and was like, "Yo, are you seeing what's happening?" Hold on, my phone's ringing. I gotta stop it. You seeing what's happening on the game? And I was like, "No." He's like, "You got to turn it on." So I turn it on, and then I got on there pretty quick, so they were still replaying. It was fast, so they were still replaying what happened. And the first quick replay I saw, and I seen number 3 get up, and how fast he dropped, dude. I was like, oh my god, this dude's in some serious fucking. He's done. I was obviously he was out cold. I didn't know that he was in cardiac arrest. And then it continues on, and they start talking. They take him out in the ambulance. They take 9 minutes to revive him. And all I could start thinking about was my father died of a heart attack. All I could think about was my dad laying there in the fucking driveway. And my brother Jesse's the one that found him. And then I just started thinking about his mom. I'm like, this guy's mom's at the game, and that's our baby. He's 24. So it's scary. He's 24. That's I can't even imagine if that ever happened to my little guy, my son or my daughter. I'd be fucking devastated. So I don't know what the feeling like was on the field, right? Before my father had died, I might have said, "Let's play football." I might have said it. I might have been like, "You know what? We gotta win this one for Hamlin. We gotta get back out here and we gotta win." I don't know. I know now that after my father passed away, absolutely not. I've been like, "Yo, if I was the coach has made the right decision." I'd be like, "We're going home. This game's over." I don't know how you guys. I don't know how anybody on that team, after see. I mean, could you imagine at center field? You walk out there and your boy, your buddy, your bro, your best friend, guys on the ground, and they're trying to bring him back to life, and they're like, "Hey, let's go. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Let's get back to work. Let's go." At this point in my life, I don't think I could do that after. I'm trying to get you guys into the mindset of the human the human condition. Their thinking. And typically I'm a pretty hard ass motherfucker. I'm moving some things around. I apologize. So typically I'm a pretty hard ass. There is nothing to keep me from work, but death, it affects people in different ways, and people handle death in different ways. Now when friends of mine and their fathers die, I'm right there. I'm right at their funeral, man. I'll give them the biggest hug on the planet because I just know how it feels. And I've been to, since my father's passed, I've been to way too many funerals for people whose dads have died young, in their 50s and early 60s. And it's crushing. So I can't imagine it, and we don't even know what's going on right now, right? Like the mom might still be out cold. They allegedly had put him into a sleep so they could have the breathing tube down his throat. We don't know what's going on. We haven't heard anything. We do know that the NFL has postponed the game or isn't going to resume the game. We're going to get into that. But there's so many emotions going on the field. And Skip Bayless, what's what I don't even know if I want to get to Skip yet, right? But people are you know what, we will. People are. Let me bring up the Skip Bayless tweet. So everybody's all over this guy for here's his comment. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, to what's going to happen in the playoffs, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. He basically said none of it seems relevant now that this guy's, now that this guy's life is in the balance. Skip said it. He straight up was like, "Hey, it seems irrelevant," but he's just asking the question that we were all asking was, are they going to play? And if they do play, is that the wrong move? Is this crazy to ask these kids, these 24-year-olds, these 25-year-olds to get back on the field and play football when their buddy, their friend, their teammate is going to the hospital and we don't know if he's going to make it or not? That's all he's asking. And he's also pointing out that there are major hold on for a sec. There's something happening with my computer, guys. I apologize. He's also pointing out that there are major other complications to be thought about. He's merely bringing up the obvious. Maybe he brought it up the wrong way, but he's clearly said that the game and money and all that shit isn't important. What's important is what's happening to this young man and will he survive? But no one knew what to do. The NFL didn't know. The NFL said, "Hey, 5 minutes, we're going to get back out there." How do we know that? Joe Buck said it. He's like, "Yep, from what we're getting from the league is that we're going to resume in 5 minutes." So much so that clearly they said something to the teams because Joe Burrow was warming up and he was getting ready to go back in. He looked like a fucking zombie getting warmed up. He looked like he didn't know what to see. I don't even know what to do. He looked like he didn't know what the fuck to do because he was like, "Damn, there's some 24-year-old guy. He probably doesn't know him that well. Maybe he does. Maybe they played against each other in the Senior Bowl or something. I don't know." And he's like, "This guy might die. And you want me to go the fuck back out here and throw a ball? Is this a fucking joke?" That's in the moment. That's like in the very moment. I was at a bachelor party when I found out that my father died. I was at a bachelor party. My buddy Kevin Collins getting married. I was at Dave and Buster's in Braintree. And I remember I get the phone call. Bro, I felt I was fucking done. I was done. I was like, he could just tell. he was sitting next to me, dude, and he just knew right away that something fucking awful happened. It hit me, and I was like, dude, I gotta go. I gotta get the fuck. I gotta leave. And Kevin's he's my best friend. Kevin Garvey, yeah, Kevin Garvey, Kevin Collins, Jeff Garvey, John Lafferty. Those are my best friends in the entire world. So when something happens to one of us, we're all affected, right? God, I hope Mr. Garvey, Mr. Collins, and Mr. Lafferty, guys, I hope you guys live forever. So I can understand these kids in that moment not getting back out there. Now I want to talk about the league. Okay, I can understand the league, and I can understand Roger Goodell not knowing what to do. They didn't know what to do. There was no protocol at all for what to do if somebody dies on the field. There was no protocol, none whatsoever. So the league just went status quo, which is, hey, sometimes we have guys out here that end up getting spinal injuries and they never walk again, and they just a fucking head, and that's it, and they blow in the fucking tube and they're done. But we still play ball. And that's an old school mentality, I think. I think that's an older generation. I think my father's generation might have been like, hey, we're going to play ball. They're going to go, like, my father's generation might have said to the players, hey, listen, there's nothing we can do to help him right now, but pray for him. He's going to go to the hospital. He's going to get the best care, and we're going to take care of business here. And we're going to win this one for Hamlin. We're going to fucking win this one for Damar. We're going to take this one home. I think that's what the older generations would have done. And Roger Goodell is in that older generation. Roger Goodell is an older man and is from the older time and doesn't understand the 24, 25-year-old kids of today, that it's just different mentality. It's different. Now, here we are talking about the NFL and whether or not to go back to play. I don't want this to be lost on this conversation. On a daily basis, police officers, firefighters, first responders, our military, our armed forces, they deal with death on a daily basis. They see people getting killed every single day. The armed forces, police officers, Secret Service, all these guys, their best friends get blown up right next to them, and they don't get to go home. They don't get called out of work. It's not over for them. They don't get the luxury of bouncing out. They have to stay. These people are heroes. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how you could be in a war and your buddy gets blown up next to you and then you can keep fighting. I don't know how you could be a police officer kicking a door and your buddy gets shot to death and you keep fighting. I don't know how you could be an EMT and a kid could fucking die in your hands and you could get up the next day. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. You're a hero to me. It's an amazing thing. My buddy Jeff is an EMT with the Jeff Garvey we just talked about. He's a firefighter, EMT for Woburn Fire Department. I don't know how the guy does it. He sees shit that you wouldn't even imagine. I mean, forget it. They're running CPR 10 times a day, not once on a kid on the center field. And I'm not trying to take away from it. So I don't know. The NFL didn't know. I don't think you should rip on the NFL for the scenario. I don't think you should rip on the coaches for taking their players off of the scenario. And I don't think that Skip Bayless deserves to be fired for pointing out the obvious, that the game is irrelevant, but there is a looming question on whether or not this game will ever get played again. Now, the answer to that question is the NFL, let's pop this up, has decided at this point, they've spoken with the family, they've spoken with both teams, they've spoken with the NFLPA, and the NFL, Roger Goodell, has informed everybody that the game will not resume this week. The NFL has made no decision regarding the possible resumption, is that how you say it, of the game at a later date. So they've decided at this point they're not going to resume the game. Why? And now I want you people to understand that don't follow the NFL. There are huge implications in this game. Currently, if the Bills had won that game last night, they'd be the number one seed in the AFC, meaning they would get a bye in the playoffs and they would have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. If the Bills lost the game, the home field advantage would go to Kansas City. Kansas City would get the bye and they would have the playoffs, a home field advantage. If the Bengals had won this game, if it got played, the Bengals won and the Chiefs had lost, well, then the Bengals would have home field advantage throughout the playoffs and they would get the bye. And you could sit here and say, well, what the fuck does that matter? Who cares? What's the big deal? It's not a big deal, when you do it, when you're exchanging someone's life for a playoff seed. I'll tell you this right now. I would give everything I own, every single thing I own, every dime I have, all my trucks for take junk. I would give it all for 5 minutes, 5 seconds with my father. I would give it all. There's not enough money in the planet that I would give everything to see my dad again. Everything. So I'm not trying to put this guy's life or the NFL before this guy's life. What I'm trying to say is, once you get past the initial shock and horror of what happened, life does go on after somebody is hurt or if somebody passes away, and it's up to the people in the leadership positions to try to figure out how that works. And there's a lot of complicated things that go on here. And I'm going to explain it to you, but I don't want it to be heartless. It's basically what Skip Bayless was trying to say. Now, before we do that, I do want to play Skip. I just have to continue on the Skip thing because he made a stupid apology, which I have to play. So let's see if we can add.
Jen, allow me to say up front that I apologize for what we're going to set out to do here today if it offends anyone, because we're going to try to do the show pretty much as we usually do the show. But I'll admit up front, I'm still shook up by what happened last night to Damar Hamlin. In fact, I'm still wrecked. In fact, I'm not sure I'm capable of doing this show today. But after barely sleeping on it, I decided to give it a try.
Okay, so Skip. I don't want to play the whole thing. He goes on to try to apologize for his tweet, and I don't think he should have. I think Skip should have came on today, and I think that he could have said exactly what he said. He could have said, "Hey, I lost sleep last night. I feel bad for their family." He could have came on and said that, and then he could have defended his tweet, which I think he should have, because he said the game was irrelevant. People, I can't stand in this society where you make a comment and everybody attacks you. Everybody comes after you. He's merely pointing out that there is some big shit going on if this game doesn't get played. So take the human side out of it for a second, and Skip is right. Now, his apology to me is garbage. I please, bro, next time, stand by your word and say, hey, I feel awful, because I do. I personally do. I just explained to you guys how I feel awful about it. But I also understand that life doesn't stop, that the world doesn't stop, and that decisions need to be made, because millions and millions of dollars and lives hang in the balance. Not life or death hang in the balance, but they are going to be affected. For example, millions of people bet on that game last night. Now, I get it. Fuck them. Who cares about their bets? Screw them. But they did. Will they get their money back? Will FanDuel, will DraftKings say, all right, the NFL has canceled the game. Here's everybody's money back? I'm guessing that's what they will do. If the game doesn't get played, and for example, what the NFL is doing is they're rolling the dice. They are hoping that their decision not to play the game doesn't matter. For example, if the Bengals and the Bills lose this coming week, then it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter because let me spell that out perfectly. If the Bengals and Bills and Chiefs win on Saturday or on Sunday, then the point is moot. It's moot. Now, if the Bengals, you know what, we should look up and see who they're playing. I know that the Bills are playing the Pats, but we need to see who the Chiefs are playing, because it all plays out together, right? Let's go to week 18. Chiefs have the Raiders. Chiefs are going to win. We know, yeah, okay. Pats, Bills. I mean, I want the Pats to win, but we're probably not going to happen. And then we got the Ravens and the Bengals. All right, so that could be us. All right, so listen. Chiefs are going to fucking win, okay? So now, if the Bills win, they have to play, right? If the Bills and the Bengals win, they have to play that game. If the Bills win and the Chiefs win, they have to play that game. because the Bills still need to get that opportunity whether or not they're going to have home field advantage. So the only way the NFL wins in this scenario or makes this issue go away, the Bills and the Bengals both need to lose this coming week. They both need to lose. Actually, you know what? Just the Bills. Let me do that again. The Bills need to lose and the Chiefs need to win. And then it's all set. All over. Done. High five to everybody. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a messed up scenario. So now let me take this a step further because I want you to pretend for a second that you're an NFL owner and you own the Bills. And if your team is going to host the playoffs throughout, and it's most likely that either the Bills, it's most likely that your team is going to be in the AFC Championship. And if you happen to be the top seed, you get 2 playoff games in your stadium. That's millions of dollars, millions of dollars of revenue coming to Buffalo, coming to your stadium, coming to your pocket to help you pay for your team that costs you hundreds of millions of dollars to run. This is big money. This isn't like, whoa, no, this isn't like a problem. This is why the NFL said, hey, at this point, we're not going to resume the game because they know they might have to. Because if they don't, the Bills could lose home field advantage. Because if they don't, the Chiefs could lose home field advantage. Because if they don't, Cincinnati could lose home field advantage. And whatever team doesn't get that, they lose out on billions of dollars. Anytime there is a fucking playoff game at Gillette Stadium, the Kraft family and the businesses that are around that place make a ton of money. And when there is no game there, they lose a ton of money. It's heartless, but it's the facts. It sucks, but it's a business. It's awful to bring up, so I feel bad for Skip taking a lot of heat for that. But someone had to make the decision. And I'm sure in the moment, Roger Goodell had all that hitting him. In that moment, Roger Goodell was like, oh my fucking God, why couldn't this be a game that didn't have any consequences? Why couldn't this just be 2 shit teams that I could say, no big deal, we're not replaying the game, it doesn't affect the playoffs, let's move on. But instantly, Roger Goodell has to think of everything. He has got to, in that fucking moment, be like, oh my God, this game has huge playoff implications. It's going to decide who the number one seed. It could decide who the number one seed is. It could decide millions of dollars going either way. We got tons of people betting on this fucking game. And in all that, he still has to think about the family. He still needs to make sure he's doing right by the team. And he's got to think about the young 24-year-old man that's headed to the hospital with his life on the line. That's a tough spot to be in. Guy makes $50 million a year to be in that spot. So, bro, you got to make the right shot. And I think in that situation, I think everything worked out. I think it all worked out. I think the teams decided they weren't going to play. The NFL didn't push them to go out there and play. That's it. Everybody went their separate ways, and the NFL has decided they're going to say, hey, we're going to roll the dice, and we're not going to play the game unless we have to. And it's going to be interesting if they have to, because I think they're going to. I don't see the Bills losing to the Pats. Do I want the Pats to win? Yes, please, God, please. But I do see Cincy winning over the Ravens, and I do see KC winning, that ends it. If KC wins, it ends it. Done. Bills lose, KC, it's over. I forget it. I'm messing the whole thing up. My point is, it's a tragedy what happened. What happened is absolutely awful. And it's not lost on anybody. I don't think it was lost on Skip Bayless, and it's not lost on anybody in the league. The people that are talking about the vaccines, I'm out on that conversation, by the way. I'm out. Please. Get the fuck away from me. I don't want to hear anything about vaccines right now. You're more than welcome to post about it. I'm not trying to censor you. Just keep that shit away from me. You know, we don't have any proof. Athletes have been falling into cardiac arrest for years. But for God knows what reason and who knows why. Only God knows why. So let's just end it like this. I hope and pray, I just when I think about my father and I think about this young man and I think about his mom and his family and his players. So I hope for a speedy and full recovery. And I hope that this time next year, that young man's playing in the NFL again, kind of like Teddy Bruschi, who had those strokes and was able to come back and play. I know he didn't have a stroke on the field, but I'm just saying that he'd be able to come back and play. God bless. And I don't know. I get pretty angry with God. I don't share that often, but I get pretty angry that my father's gone. And sometimes my conversation, I don't like to push religion on people, but sometimes my conversations with God aren't great because I'm pissed that he took my father too early. But last night I appealed to the big guy, and I hate reaching out to God like he's our butler, because he's not. We reach to him for guidance. We don't command the Almighty to do things for us. But I asked last night for him to please help this young man, and please help his family. Don't let this be the end of his story. Don't let his mom have to see her son, pass that. Please don't let this. And I say that for everybody. Any mom, you know what? No one should have to die. I hate the whole thing. Thanks for listening.